In order for our definition of freedom to hold any weight, to hold any water, we should check it against the harshest of circumstances. Let's check it to see if it still stands in the worst scenario that we can think of. And maybe the worst scenario that we can think of that takes away human freedom is prison, right? I mean, that is a place that's designed to take away human freedom. It's a punishment that takes away every exterior factor of our life, right? One who is in prison doesn't have the right to eat whenever they want or whatever they want. They don't have the right to socialize with whomever they want. They don't have the right to leave or to set their own schedule whenever they want. They don't have the right to choose their own bed or request a nicer one, right? I mean, every single exterior factor is taken away. And so if our definition, let's see if the definition of the modern world holds true, right? The right to do whatever I want, I mean, it's almost silly to think that definition would hold true in prison, let alone even in your own house, right? Our parents have certain rules that impinge on that definition of freedom. I mean, there's no place in this world that you can go where that definition of freedom is true. Well, what about our definition of freedom? The definition that we have the power to do what we ought. Well, does a prisoner have the power to do what one ought? Well, let's hear from a true prisoner. The greatest example that I can think of is a man named Walter Chiswick, Father Walter Chiswick, a priest of the Diocese of Allentown in Pennsylvania, who in the 1940s volunteered to go and evangelize in Russia, a place where Christianity was not allowed, a place where he was not allowed to celebrate Mass or to do things outwardly. His exterior faculties were seriously constrained. Well, when he got there, he was convicted of espionage, being a spy for the United States of America. And because of that, he was put into solitary confinement for 5 years. These are the most inhumane circumstances that anyone could think of, especially when you're convicted of being a spy from the United States, right? He didn't see the light of day. He didn't have the right to the light of day. He didn't have the right to any kind of human interaction with the outside world. No relationships for 5 years. And after that, for 15 years, he was sent to Siberia to be in a work camp. But he got out. It's an amazing story. You should check out the book called With God in Russia, or the book that he wrote after that called He Leadeth Me. But he had this to say in that book. He said about his experiences of being a prisoner. He said, the body can be confined, but nothing can destroy the deepest freedom in a man, the freedom of his soul, the freedom of his mind and of his will. These are the faculties that make him the sort of man that he is, and they cannot be constrained. Even in prison, a man retrains his free will, his freedom and his choice. Even in prison, a man can choose to do good or evil, to fight for survival or to despair. He's saying that entire time, no matter the exterior circumstances, he still retained all the interior freedom that he needed, that he desired, according to the definition that the Lord gave him. In order to be truly free interiorly, to experience peace, even in the harshest of circumstances, he was not alone. He was in solitary confinement with God. That's where that definition of his book, that title, With God in Russia, God never left him alone. God was always with him. God was always retraining his freedom and showing how humanity is truly free. He goes on to say this: ultimately, the only absolute freedom that we have resides in a man's free will. It is in choosing to serve God, to do his will, that a man achieves his highest and his fullest freedom. It may seem paradoxical to say that our highest and fullest freedom comes from when we follow to the least detail the will of another. But it is true nonetheless, when the other is God. He tells us that the deepest level, the most fundamental level of our freedom is interior freedom. It's not because of exterior factors. And just as maybe concupiscence attacks our interior freedom because it helps us to determine and to decide to choose things that are evil for us, it constrains us, it keeps us slaves, then the antidote, the greatest ally of our freedom is God himself, who came to set us free. In fact, in John chapter 8, Jesus says, if the Son has come, then you are truly free. He frees us from concupiscence. He frees us from sin. He shows us the way to true interior freedom, despite the circumstances of life that we can't control. If we follow our Lord, if we are with him in Russia, or we are with him in the United States, no matter where we are, even into the confinement of our own bedroom, where the government says we can't come outside, even in those circumstances, when we are with God, we still retain our free will. we still retain the freedom of choice, of mind, of soul. All of those things will lead to the greatest freedom. Our greatest freedom is our interior freedom. That's why our definition holds weight, holds water. It is the power to do whatever we ought.